Be ready out of season, and I've added the word too. Be ready out of season as well. Be ready out of season too. And it's coming from this particular verse, 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. This is Paul writing to Timothy. Timothy is he's younger than Paul is, a young preacher. And he says, I charge you therefore before God, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead at His appearing and His kingdom. Preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season. Convince, rebuke, exhort with all longsuffering and teaching. Now, here is the news. The news is be ready in season. That's when things are going well. It's very good and very easy to do a job when everything is easy, when everything is going right. But he's saying not everything's going to be going right. Not everything's going to be going good. Matter of fact, he's about to make a prophecy that things are going to go very bad in time. They're going to go very bad. But he says, and out of season. Not just when things are good, but you're going to have to continue this when things are not so good. And that could be in a host of situations where things are not so good. They can come at you from any sort of direction. And you just don't know what the future may hold. But what you should hold on to is the fact that you have a duty to do. You have a job that must be committed, that must be done regardless of the season. In season, out of season, it should always be done. And these are the things that you are to do. Convince, rebuke, exhort with all longsuffering and teaching. Now, there's a lot of folks that, trying to convince them, well, they can be very hard to convince, but they're not so, they don't reject that as much as they reject this next one, which is rebuke. I prefer not to have that one ever. But sometimes we do need the rebuke, but I need to move on from this. Paul tells Timothy to do his job regardless of changing conditions. Regardless, because things will change from day to day, year to year. Your job is not determined by how good the day may or may not be. You do it regardless. You continue on regardless. Now, while you have one preacher talking to another preacher, an apostle talking to a preacher, this applies to this day, but it certainly can be helpful if we all recognize that regardless of conditions, regardless of, we will say, the weather, regardless of that, we all remain faithful. We continue to do the will of God regardless of outside forces or pressures or how good the day may or may not be at all. This isn't a thing of convenience. This is a thing of dedication and of love. To do something religiously means that you make the sacrifices necessary, and it doesn't matter the external forces at all. Weather changes by the day, it can change by the hour, but you continue the work. That's what he's telling him. You continue the work in all this, and he is also preparing him for a storm, because Paul knows something's going to be occurring in Timothy's lifetime. Something is going to be occurring, and Timothy needs to be warned about it, prepared about it, and that these things can happen, and you just don't even realize that it's even approaching, but Paul tells him. Paul prophesies concerning Christians leaving the faith. They don't want to hear the truth anymore. They are members of the church, but they're leaving Christ because they desire something else. They want, and just fill in the blank, they want something more fantastic. That would be your modern day, I've lost that word now, Pentecostals. That's your modern day Pentecostals. They want something more fantastic. There are others that would want something with a whole lot more pomp and circumstance, a whole lot more of impressive things. Well, that could be like Roman Catholicism. That could be that of your community churches with the entertainment going on, the theatrical lighting and all of that. People looking for something else, they're not looking for Christ. Now, he is preparing him for a storm. God, here is the thing, God never stopped nor changed his message because some reject it. He never did. And he's not going to. And he doesn't stop the messengers simply because some reject it. They have to continue day in, day out. Let's look at some things here. Every generation has its difficulties, has its rebellious, has its blasphemers, and the messengers were still sent out during all those times. They were still there. So, some things will never be popular, let's face it. Some things will not. The community churches have gone out of their way, I think more so than anybody else, to try to repackage the church. Of this, what Christ has given us is not sellable, so we've got to repackage this and come with a marketing scheme and find out what does the community want, and we supply them with that. Now, we put it under the name of Christ and everything should be okay. Christ should be fine with that because they've all come to glorify Him. Well, the likelihood is you've brought them in by their desires, not by Christ's desires. You've brought them in by the just simple worldliness. You've brought them in by an altered gospel. What part does Christ play in this except that you've just put His name to it? That's all you've done. And so sometimes the doctrine of Christ, there are certain doctrines of Christ that will never be popular. All right? That of the parable of the Good Samaritan. That's always popular. That's okay. Especially when we consider that we may be the man who was in need, who was left for dead. Yeah, we want that Good Samaritan. That portion of the gospel of Christ, that's not a hard sell to anybody. That sounds pretty good. But when it comes to other matters, other doctrines concerning salvation or worship or marriage, divorce, and remarriage, or other, just numerous other things, those things are skipped over and neglected. Altogether, Jeremiah 1:10, notice what God says to Jeremiah. See, I have this day set you over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out, to pull down, to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. Now, what's God saying to Jeremiah? The things that He is going to be doing to root out and to pull down, that's to destroy the things that Israel and these other nations loved. They loved them. I should say in this that of Judah and Jerusalem and the nations, that they loved these things. They loved the idolatry. They loved thinking that Jehovah was going to protect them regardless of what they did. Somehow He was going to be okay that they had idolatry in His temple. It's not just Him being worshiped. It was a host of other things that were being worshiped in there. They had put in all these gods and all these idols and all these things that were in there and in and around His temple, and somehow God was going to be okay with that. And the fact that His temple is in Jerusalem means that He's not going to allow anybody to take Jerusalem. He's not going to do it. But Jeremiah is going to root out and pull down, and he's going to make enemies in that. There's going to be a king that's going to discover what has been written. Jeremiah's scroll. These things that have been recorded, and that king, it's going to be read in front of that king for just a bit, and that king's going to take a knife, shred it, and throw it into the fireplace. Was that well received? No, not at all. He did not want his beliefs, he did not want his life, he did not want the things that he desired rooted out or pulled down. Now we come to destroy and to throw down. It's saying the same thing. That God is going to do these things, and He has a messenger that's going to speak these things, and you have very powerful men such as kings who do not want to hear it and will stop it. When you have a message coming from a prophet of God, such as the Babylonians are coming against this city, surrender to them and all will be well. That sounds treasonous to a king who is going to protect his city at all costs, protect himself and his city with whatever it takes. He's not about to lay down arms. But God is the one assuring them, you lay down your arms, you do not resist, let them in, all right, and all will be well with you. And that's not Nebuchadnezzar saying that. That's Jehovah God telling them that. Well, they don't like that message. That message is coming from Jeremiah. That's not a popular message, but it's coming from God. God through Jeremiah. And what He's going to build and to plant, once again, those that do not want their love doctrines or their loved lifestyle rooted up or pulled down or destroyed or thrown down, they don't want what God's going to build built. They don't want that. They don't want that planted. Whatever God's going to plant, what they've planted, they want. They don't want anything else that God may do. They refuse all of that. Now, so what does that mean concerning Jeremiah? This is very, very unpopular, this message. Very unpopular. Does that mean you just keep silent? No, because he's called to do these very things. He's called, how's he going to root out and pull down? How's he going to be, if God is setting him over the nations and over the kingdoms to do these things and he refuses to do it, then he's just joined the other rebellious, is what he's done. Now, here's another thing. Some will not take it well at all. Some things will never be popular. Some will never take it well. Now, we've already made mention of earlier in Jeremiah chapter 1, but notice, beginning in verse 17, therefore prepare yourself and arise and speak to them all that I command you. Do not be dismayed before their faces, lest I dismay you before them. Don't fear them. God's with Jeremiah. Don't fear them. Don't compromise. Do not be dismayed. Do not act in any kind of fearful way. You say what you're supposed to say. And Jeremiah is finding himself, he had a very rough life. He had a very rough life, Jeremiah. He's not the only one in the day. But his mission was a rather difficult one to face. But he did it. He is called as a youth, and he's going to be doing this for quite a while. And he is going to be surrounded by people who do not like him at all. They're going to put him in prison. There are some that would have killed him. He is spared by others. And he goes through a very difficult time in his life because of this. But don't be dismayed before their faces, lest I dismay you before them. Show a lack of faith, show fear, you backtrack, you backpedal, as we might say, then God is not going to back you. He's not going to back Jeremiah. Now, verse 18. For behold, I have made you this day a fortified city and an iron pillar. Notice the language. And bronze walls against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, against its princes, against its priests, and against the people of the land. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Kings, princes, priests. Okay, the kings and the princes, those are the most powerful men that happen to be in the day. Then you have the very priests. You would think that they would have at least been more sympathetic toward a prophet of God, but they're not. And against the people of the land. That's your basic run-of-the-mill person. Everybody else. But notice, he says, I have made you into something. Fortified city, an iron pillar, a bronze wall against the whole land. God will never place anything on you that you can't handle. He prepared Jeremiah. He prepared him. However that was done, I cannot answer, but he says he did it. That regardless of king, prince, priest, or people, Jeremiah is still that bronze wall. He's still that iron pillar. That's what he is. And others through his life will come and go. Others will become his enemies. Others will find that in their own way, many of them tragically, that Jeremiah was right, or rather that Jehovah was right and Jeremiah spoke the truth. They're going to find in their own way. Now, verse 19, they will fight against you, but they shall not prevail against you, for I am with you, says the Lord, to deliver you. There's the assurance. I am with you to deliver you. And here's also an assurance, they'll fight against you. Don't think that this is going to be trouble-free. It's not. Don't think that somehow this is going to be a life of ease. It's not going to be a life of ease. That there's going to be troubles, and you have to be there to fight against them. And you will be the one to prevail because, as God says, He would deliver Jeremiah. Now, what does Christ say to us? And lo, I am with you always to the end of the age. That word lo, or behold, I am with you, even to the end of the age. That means look and see. Put it to the test and see if I am not with you. And you'll find out that I am. We will find out that Christ is with us. If we are serving Him, if we're doing precisely what He has called us to do, He is with us. And that it doesn't matter what enemies we might have, whether kings or princes, priests or people of the land. It doesn't matter who the enemies happen to be. Christ is saying that to us. God said it to Jeremiah, but now Christ says, just put it to the test. And look, I am with you. I am with you. He does not abandon His church. He does not abandon His sheep. He doesn't abandon His army. He does not abandon His family. He is there for every single one of us. Now, God prepares us for the job. As already stated, God's not going to put anything on you you cannot handle. You can go through some very, very tough times, but never think God has been terribly unfair, put something on you that you cannot take, because you can. As a very good engineer, as a very good creator, He knows precisely what He knows our breaking point. He knows it. And He also knows that we need to be a material that strengthens in time. Needs to do that. Now we can decide what type of material we're made out of. We can decide that we just crumble at the first sign of any kind of stress, that we just fold and give up. That's giving up. That's not showing any kind of perseverance whatsoever. But God knows that we can handle precisely what may be in front of us. And God knows that He has asked us, everything that He's asked us to do, He knows we can do it. But a lot of people just aren't doing it. That is not. They think it's up to somebody else. They think that they simply cannot, or just more likely simply will not. I've talked about this before, years ago, preaching in Florida, that quite often we would have people moving down, and they would talk about basically they had retired, they had moved down there, and basically they were retiring, some of them, not all of them, some of them retiring from anything they were doing with the church. They would still go to church, but they had pretty much retired from, don't expect them to do anything, all right? Don't expect them to do anything other than just take up space, other than they'll be there on a Sunday. Don't expect them. And they would just tell you, no, we did all that through all these years, and now we're retired. I've got two things to say about that. One, you don't retire until you leave this earth. You don't retire the church. You don't retire from any kind of duty. You may not be able to do what you used to do, but there are things you can do now you couldn't do years ago. You can do it now. Our abilities, our resources are always changing. Open doors and open opportunities are always changing. Now, here's the second thing I have to say about that, is that I had my doubts that those people ever did much of anything in their life. I really do. Because you could see the ones that were dedicated. The ones that were dedicated, they had done things in the past, and they continue to do things in the future, and they were just as retired, or even more advanced in as far as their age, and still were faithful. You could still count on them to do. You could still do that. God prepares us for the job. We can do it. Are we doing it? The people I just described, they're not ready in season or out of season. Don't even expect them to be there for out of season. They're hard. You can't get them to do anything in season, much less out of season. Now, we come to this, Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 7. But the house of Israel will not listen to you, because they will not listen to me. For all the house of Israel are impudent and hard-hearted. Behold, I have made your face strong against their faces, and your forehead strong against their foreheads. Like adamant stone, harder than flint, I have made your forehead. Do not be afraid of them, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they are a rebellious house. This is very similar to what he told Jeremiah. Very similar. He's using different words. With Jeremiah, it was that iron pillar, that bronze wall. Here, he says, I have made your forehead adamant stone. Adamant is an extremely hard rock. Extremely hard. He's saying the same thing. If he had said it was iron, it would be saying the same thing. Harder than flint. And he has made Ezekiel this way to be able to do the mission he's called Ezekiel to do. Ezekiel is a contemporary of Jeremiah. Jeremiah is older than Ezekiel. But while Jeremiah remains doing the work inside of Judah and Jerusalem, Ezekiel is doing the work among the captives in Babylon. He is teaching them, and he's having the same sort of problems that Jeremiah has in Jerusalem, but this is among the captives, not in Jerusalem. This is among the captives. And they're not liking things either. The Word of God isn't suiting them. Well, maybe you need to change your opinion on it. It could be that God's ways actually are better than ours. It could be that just have a little faith in all of this. And here is these men who went through extraordinarily difficult times. Jesus faced disappointment and rejection. Before we even get to that of His arrest, trial, extraordinary mistreatment, the blasphemy of it all, of beatings and the scourging and then the crucifixion and His death. Before we get to any of that, there were times of deep disappointment. I know it would have been. And if I had been there, you might as well have kicked me in the chest, because it would be so disappointing. But here are the words, John 6:66. From that time many of His disciples went back and walked with Him no more. Did they ever walk with Him again? It says no more. That was it. So they weren't really disciples. It says in the text they had been His disciples. They were following Him. They did believe in Him. They did. But it is because of what He was teaching. The miracles, they accepted. The good works, they accepted. His teaching, no, didn't like that. Didn't like His teaching at all. Might be a little bit too difficult. Might be too hard to understand. Might be something that is just a grand disappointment to us. Never mind that maybe we should take a little bit of time and figure out what it all means. Never mind going to Him directly and asking Him what it means. They reject Him. They walk with Him no more. That means ever again in their lifetime. Whether it is this side of the cross or after His resurrection. They walk with Him no more. They're done. That's it. And would that have been a disappointment to Him? Of course, He knows everyone's heart. He knows precisely what they were capable of doing and likely to do and probably would do. But I know that it would. He was acquainted with grief. That didn't just happen when you're getting close to the cross. That was well before we get to the cross that He was acquainted with that. Now, we have the charge again. I charge you therefore before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead at His appearing and His kingdom. Here is the charge. Preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season. Convince, rebuke, exhort with all longsuffering and teaching. Now, we put this just very, very briefly. Notice in all this, with all longsuffering, everybody needs that. Everybody has to have longsuffering. With patience and longsuffering, there can be unity. Yesterday at the men's breakfast, there was this devotional concerning that of the unity of brethren. You cannot have unity without Christ, obviously. And there are certain aspects, there are certain characteristics that we are to hold that Christ uses. He holds it, and He teaches us as well to hold it. That is patience and long-suffering. We have to. That there's something greater than me. That's the church. Greater than me, that's the gospel. Greater than me, that is a message given to lost souls. Greater than me, that is of seeing that our influence can cause people to stumble. That's no good. Our influence can, in fact, be the very thing that keeps people from being obedient to the gospel. Could be the very thing that keeps them away from Christ because they're looking at us and they don't see something that is good. but we are to have long suffering and patience with each other and everybody else. You have, and it occurs, and it's not good, it occurs of where you have one person, and I've seen it both male and female, one person who has their way of doing something, and it's a superb way. And another person that has their way of doing something, and it's the superb way. And each is convinced the other is right, and neither one is willing to work with the other. Both of them wanting to have the reins, both of them wanting to outshine everybody else, and neither one of them willing to show any kind of long suffering. Neither one of them willing to humble themselves. Neither one of them willing to understand that something is greater than my pride. That shouldn't be around anyway. Everything's greater than your pride. And there's something greater than yourself, and that is keeping your brother safe. Keeping your brother in a place where he can continue to see the good, continue to be in the church that Christ died for, and that there be a continued unity there. This is the exact thing that should be going on in every congregation. Convince, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and teaching. This has to be there. It's not just that of fluffy message or feel-good kind of message, or just something that's kind of shallow and doesn't require anything out of anybody. Just, I'm okay, you're okay, and all is well in the world. There's a teaching where we find not everything is all right in the world, that things may not be okay at all. Things may be terrible. Ready out of season 2. That is something given to every single one of us, and something that we need to, in fact, learn. We need to grow in faith, grow in the Word, grow in all that is good. Wherever you are, take personal inventory. Is everything right? If it's not right, do something about it. If it's not right, why wait? I've mentioned this story before, and it concerns, I mentioned Jimmy Hill just this morning. Jimmy talked about his father, and that his father was well acquainted with the church. Didn't want to be any part of it. Didn't want to have anything to do with it. And he just waited and waited and waited, and finally decided, this is Jimmy's story, finally decided that he would, in fact, he decided he would obey the gospel, and he decided that today he would be baptized. And actually, he died before that could happen. He died before he could be baptized that day. He didn't know he was going to die that day, or I doubt that he did. He didn't know that was going to happen, but he simply had played around and played around and played around, and that's all it was until it was just too late. And there is nothing he can be able to say on the day of judgment of, if you would have given me a couple more hours. You had how many years? You had how often did you at what point did you know this message, and how long did it take you before you decided you were going to commit to it? All right, you know something's wrong, take care of it. If you know something's wrong, take care of it. As we learn, we live. Make the adjustments. This evening, if you need to respond to the invitation, if we can help you in any way, we ask that you come as we stand and sing.